spring into a Cherry Hill Volvo and experience an automotive retailer with a passion to do what is right. Stop by Cherry Hill Volvo for the attention and respect you deserve. I am Judith Krepnick, president of Cherry Hill Volvo. At Cherry Hill Volvo, we have the fabulous 2021 fully electric XC40 available for immediate delivery. This is a Volvo not to be missed. Innovative, safe, exciting, and environmentally respectful. The Cherry Hill Volvo SUV line includes passenger configuration for 5, 6, or 7. Fuel choices are gasoline, hybrid, and fully electric. You choose the passenger configuration and the fuel type. Absolutely amazing. Visit Cherry Hill Volvo for the automotive experience you've always wanted.
WPHT HD WOGL HD3 Philadelphia from the Cherry Hill Volvo Studios, where relationships matter. An Odyssey station. The revolution will be broadcast. This is the next generation of talk. Now on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Oh, Philadelphia. Philadelphia, good morning. This is not a drill, it is the real thing. The Rich Zeoli Show. Jimmy Fallon, best midday host in the country, subbing in for Rich Zeoli, the best morning host anywhere in the world, here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT and the Odyssey app. Let's start it off right with some Zeoli Show news from the great Dawn. Yo, Dawn.
Yo, Jimmy, how you doing? Good morning.
Oh, I'm fired up for this. I ate the good Tide Pods for this one. Give me this, because a guy with my Mook Long Island accent, who, as you know, grew up driving a cab and is a huge fan of the show, do I sound this morning like I'm ready to do talk radio, or do I sound like a guy who's still out from the night before?
Well, if you were out the night before, that makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's true, because you have like a delirious thing going on. Okay, so here's the thing, really quick, before we get into the news. I am not still out from the night before, but I was on Kennedy last night on the Fox Business Network. Shout out to her. And as you know, because I spent a lot of time driving a taxi, I have like survivor's guilt. And when someone gives me a ride home from Fox, like, I tip them to the point that they think I want to hook up with them. So, like, it's because it's just a guilt. I give them everything I have. I give them money, gift cards. One guy has my wedding ring. I'm trying to get it back. And so I am not still out from the night before, but I'm fairly sure the guy who dropped me off is. I think he's still outside my house somewhere on Long Island. Looks like he's going to come back out. I just know he is. He was probably just going in to get some wine or something. So, hopefully, hopefully I can get home today in one piece. No promises, but I'm happy to be here. Nice to get the band back together, and I know Anthony's leaving us soon, so I'll try not to get emotional. But news, that's the word on the street. Let's get some Zeoli Show news.
Yes, and Zeoli Show News live, sponsored by Exergen this morning. Good morning. We are at 47 degrees. A violent 24 hours in Philadelphia with at least 2 homicides, as well as a deadly officer-involved shooting. This after a string of shootings across the city, so police are investigating this series of unrelated shootings, they believe, unrelated across the city, bringing the total number of homicides this year so far, and it's only April 8th, to 130. 130 people.
That's horrible.
It's worse than New York, they're saying. And even if you look at it per capita, in other words, our population comparatively, we're now worse than Chicago, because they have 1 million more people than us, even though they're at 150. And so it's just, and I don't throw around these numbers lightly, because they're not just statistics. I mean, 130 individuals, and many of them young people, young men in Philadelphia. It's incredible.
That's heartbreaking. Yeah, that's heartbreaking. And I feel really quickly like, I think a lot of times there's a detachment, between the reality of what you're talking about and the rhetoric of what you're talking about. Meaning, like, back in the spring when people are like, oh, we'll defund the police, and, people really weren't helping the cops, especially in cities like Philly and New York and Chicago, where elected officials were kind of slandering them in the public eye. But that, that kind of talk, that kind of vibe, does affect real lives, as we're seeing now in these numbers. And that's my frustration, is that these are real lives, but they're never categorized as such. They're more or less, talked about as like political collateral. And as a real person, that one kind of breaks my heart, Dawn, but I will let you go on, because I'm sad enough about Anthony without getting into this.
Yes. Police say one of the crime scenes, just one I'll mention, in Nicetown, where 2 young men were gunned down killing one young man, a 21-year-old, and injuring another. So another shooting happened during this is apparently a routine traffic stop. We're getting the details. The police commissioner will hold another news conference today, but a traffic stop when police say the man who was pulled over opened fire on a fully uniformed police officer. This happened in Logan. That suspect then fired at other officers who were arriving on the scene, and the suspect killed in a gun battle. That according to police. So what about the officer who was originally shot at? So he is currently hospitalized at Einstein Medical Center. He's in stable condition. So we'll continue to follow that one as well. We do have a new study that says 1 in 4 Americans have now received the COVID-19 vaccine. So that's some good news.
There you go.
We have April 12th. We've been told America's children should be able to go back to the classroom. So that has a lot of implications here in Philadelphia. The vast majority of our school children, especially in middle school and high school, have not seen the inside of a classroom for more than a year.
That's scary. I would like to point out really quick on the vaccine news that as a New Yorker, our Yankees did their part. They were using Yankee Stadium as a vaccination site, mostly because they had to get rid of those extra needles from A-Rod and Jason Giambi.
Stop.
But the point is we're helping out. The point is we're making a difference over here. I did. And listen, I wasn't there. I got mine the old-fashioned way off Craigslist. I feel fine. A little bit of a twitch, but it seems okay. The guy met him behind the bowling alley, no line. It was great.
It's a sin. Well, I know Jimmy is a big fisherman, so there's an advisory from the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission. If you catch a frankenfish, you must kill it. You can eat it, you can smush it, but do not throw it back. And if you transport it, you could face huge fines and even arrest. It's a frankenfish, yes.
I did not know that. Like, that could be its own spin-off. You know, they have deadliest catch.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Maybe like illegalist catch. I know that's not a real word, but listen to my accent, folks. If you came to this with intellectual expectations, the joke is on you. I'm not the bad guy here. It's like I saw a guy last night, Dawn. You know how they have Dollar Pizza in New York? I saw a guy complaining about his slice of pizza at Dollar Pizza, and I wanted to interrupt and be like, sir, you renounced your rights when you agreed to pay $1 for a slice. Like, you don't get complaining privileges.
That's right.
You know, if someone performs laser eye surgery on you for $20 and you're cross-eyed, I don't consider the customer always right in this instance. Just saying.
Well, it's going to be beautiful fishing weather, if that's your thing. 71 degrees for your NBC 10 First Alert forecast today. So just a gorgeous, bright, sunny day. Only a 2% chance this morning of some showers, which I don't even see that happening. So gorgeous today. Not so much for the next 3 days. So for our friend Rich Cioli, we know he took his beautiful bride, Bridget, the family to Delaware. So, yeah, not such a great...
Lovely this time of year.
Yeah,
Lovely
I know,
this
right?
time of year. Yes.
So we've all joked about we can't go to Cabo or Florida. So tomorrow is 65 degrees and cloudy. Then Saturday, 70, but very, very cloudy for the weekend, it's saying. 70 degrees Saturday with a 25% chance of rain. And then Sunday, it is 73, but 68% chance of rain and thunderstorms.
Wow.
Sorry.
I know. I didn't mean to bum everybody out. But to confirm today, you said a 2% chance of showers, which jumps out to me as the parent of a 12-year-old boy, because it's about the same percentage in my house. Is a 2% chance.
Dawn knows exactly what you're talking about.
I know,
Yeah, right?
because I have a 14-year-old and a 17-year-old.
I don't understand this, because I've been a 12-year-old kid, and I was the same way. I was filthy. But I don't know what it is about 12-year-old boys, like 10 to 15-year-old boys, that just fly towards the filth.
Yes.
But there's something about it. Because when I heard you say 2% chance of showers, I thought of my son Lincoln, and I was like, that actually sounds high, because I don't know that we'd get 2%. There's like a 20% of him running the water and not getting in, because that's what I used to do as a kid.
Yes.
And I
Yeah, I'm
get
showering.
caught.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
did you ever
showering.
get caught doing that, Greg?
Yeah, yes, 100%. Yep, I'm just in there hanging out, running the water.
Oh, what a winning moment. So, yeah, I have the water cranking, and I fell asleep on the little rug on the floor in my bathroom in the house, the Levitt house I grew up in. And you understand, those old Levitt houses, they had radiant heat. So they had, like, little heat pipes in the floor, like under the tile.
Yep.
So they were warm, and you were like a cat in a sunspot. And if you laid down on it on a rug, like, you passed out instantly.
Right to
So I was in there to the point that I was too young for them to assume I was doing something worse. And they eventually had to open the door, and they found me sleeping nude. There's a visual. Morning, Philadelphia. And laying there with the water running, and I'd been had. And it was a really shameful moment, I'm not going to lie.
Wait, does Lincoln have the stank yet? Like the preteen, pubescent? It's a particular ode to teen.
So it's so funny about that because this is specific to women. You know how like dogs can hear a dog whistle or like notes that the rest of society can't hear?
Yes.
Women can smell things like 2 years before the rest of the society can smell them. So she's been yelling at him about the stank for like 2 years. He's 12 now. I pick it up from time to time, but it was a trending headline in Jenny Faila's news service since like 2018. Just yelling.
I love it.
Yeah, and it's funny because women, not only, do they pick up the scent, but it makes them angry. Like, she'll be like, why are you doing that? Take a shower, you animal. It's never like, hey, man, take a shower or something, which is what we would do. Like, dude, I don't know what went on last night, but take a shower. No. Women get militant.
We do. My husband says we're the Wolverine. We have the scent smell of a Wolverine. It's crazy. Well, this news is brought to you by Exergen. I got to pay the bill. Earn a $5 rebate by trading up any non-contact thermometer toward an Exergen purchased at any retailer. Accuracy matters when taking your temp, and Exergen temporal artery thermometers are backed by more than 80 published peer-reviewed clinical studies. Visit Exergen.com. This is Cioli Show News Live.
Wow. I'm in my Simon Cowell V-neck T-shirt, and I have nothing but fine things to say about that performance, Dawn.
Thank you.
I have heard some news in my day, but no, that was outstanding. The news story on my mind as we kick off the show today, I was talking about this with Kennedy last night, is the Tiger Woods thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how he's doing 87 and a 45, which is, pretty up there. He doesn't get criminally charged, but the thing that jumped out at me is there's no toxicology test, which is interesting because the sheriff's terminology for why there was no toxicology test, I love this, is he goes, well, there were no signs of impairment at the scene. And I'm like, yo, there's an upside down car in the woods.
Nothing to see here, folks.
When you say no signs, do you mean those signs he knocked over on the side of the road? Like, if this guy's like a fire marshal, he's like, well, other than the book of matches and the tub of gasoline, there were no signs of arson. So the gloves, it was insane. And let's not act like this guy, and thank God he's okay. I hold great reverence for Tiger Woods. He's, the PGA Tour's all-time leader in Perkins waitresses. I care about the guy. He's put up. That's probably what's going on. He was probably fleeing the scene, getting chased by the husband of a Perkins waitress. Yeah, I got you 18th major right here, pal. And he ran off the road. But yeah, let's not act like he's throwing a perfect game behind the wheel. That's why I was surprised. Like, Greg, do you buy into my theory that cop who arrived at the scene got free Nikes for life?
100%. And I saw the press conference with the LA sheriff yesterday, and they were basically saying there was no special treatment was given to Tiger Woods. And I was just like, really? You can say that with a straight face? Dude, really?
If you listened close, you could hear the deputy doing a spit take when he said that. It was so good because Tiger, if you remember, he thanked in his statement the two good Samaritans that pulled him out of the car. That was the tell. It was only one person, and he was seeing double.
Tiger tweeting out, I'll continue to focus on my recovery and family and thank everyone for the overwhelming support and encouragement I've received throughout this very difficult time. So he hasn't made a statement. He just tweeted that out.
All right. No, I get behind that. But it's very quizzical that that with his history. Because understand this. The DUI he got last time was one of like the comically bad ones where they asked him what his favorite color was and he said Chex Mix.
Wait, wasn't that Springsteen's line when he got
Good job, Dawn. That's funny. Oh, Springsteen. Did you there were so many good puns of Springsteen songs.
Oh,
yes.
Now, I will have I want credit for this. I don't do a lot right, but I want credit for this. The New York Post had Born to Rum.
Yep.
Yes.
And but I promise you, in real time, Kennedy and I heard this story at the same time, and just it flew out of our fat faces. And we were like a minute ahead of the Post curve on that one. And we pride ourselves on that because, the New York Post is like the original big pun. They love a good headline pun.
Great headline writers at that place. Whoever.
Very good. The funny papers. There's an actual old saying in New York that we use in a taxi. I would say to passengers, I only buy Hustler magazine so I have something to hide the post in.
I love it.
What are you reading there? The New York Post? No, this is I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. But I think the point we're trying to make here, kids, is we're fired up. We got a big show today.
We do.
On the Rich Zeoli Show. Jimmy Fallon, the Zeoli Navy, back in port. And we're fired. Like, I'm pumped up for this. It's nice to get the band back together. It's nice to hear everybody's voices,
Yeah, it's good to when Rich is like, I need a couple days off. I'm like, I got to call Jimmy. Jimmy needs to come and hang out with Dawn and Anthony and I.
Oh, you're sending the wolf? That's all you had to say. That's all you had to say. Folks, the wolf, back after this on 1210 WPHT, The Rich Zeoli Show.
Hi, I'm Phil Falcone from InvestorSchooling.com. I'm inviting you to a complimentary class this Thursday night at 7 p.m. I will teach you how to buy ugly houses and make them beautiful. As a bonus, we will also teach you stock option investing. 7 p.m. this Thursday night, 215-876-3002, InvestorSchooling.com.
Hey everybody, it's Larry Sinus from InvestorSchooling.com. You heard my partner Phil Falcone tell you why you should be there this Thursday night to learn about real estate investing and learn about stock options trading. We're telling you right now you will make more money than you've ever made in your entire life if you learn these two skills. This Thursday night at 7 o'clock, go to InvestorSchooling.com. Pull over right now, take out your phone and go to InvestorSchooling.com. RSVP right now, InvestorSchooling.com. See you Thursday.
Odyssey is all the audio that matters to you. Listen on your smart speaker or voice-assisted device. Amazon Echo, Google Nest, Sonos, Apple HomePod. It's so easy to play your favorites at your command. Hands-free. All kinds of music from all over the country. Top 40, rock, R&B, country, alternative, and more. Sports talk and coverage from all the leagues. News from coast to coast. It's all here. Just ask your smart speaker to play your favorite station. Explore a universe of audio. Odyssey.
Text us to receive up to 5 marketing texts sent via automated technology to your number. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply. Membership automatically renews. Cancel anytime.
Hi, you ever heard of Beachbody On Demand? Hold on a second. Here is your free membership. I'm Carl Deichler, the CEO of Beachbody, and I just sent a free membership to another customer. And I'm giving away 10,000 free memberships a week to anyone who texts me right now to try our new Beachbody On Demand fitness and nutrition app. Just text the word BEST to 303030 to get instant access to all $8,000 of our best-selling fitness programs like 21 Day Fix, Insanity, P90X, T25, and PIO. These programs really work, and this is your one chance to try them for free. Just text the word BEST to 303030. That's BEST to 303030 right now, and I'll send you your own free membership.
Actual patient testimonials results may vary.
If you've been suffering with painful and embarrassing varicose and spider veins, the fact is they're not going to get better on their own. It's time to stop thinking about getting treatment and start doing something about it. And Vein Clinics of America can help.
I was too embarrassed to wear shorts, dresses. I am so glad I came in. I can do and wear whatever I want.
For more than 40 years, the doctors at Vein Clinics of America have been the leading experts in the minimally invasive treatment of vein disease. What does that mean for you? No major surgery, no downtime, and no more ugly varicose and spider veins.
My legs looked beautiful, they felt beautiful, and I felt good inside.
Feel confident again and live your best life with Vein Clinics of America. Medicare and most insurance is accepted, so call now to see if you qualify for a free, no-obligation consultation.
Call 800-830-9966. 800-830-9966. 800-830-9966.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Now listen, if you're still holding on to that winter weight, how are you going to drop those extra pounds? Call my good friends. I've used this diet. I lost 20 pounds. Check me out on TV. 855-5NJ-DIET on the web, njdiet.com.
Free speech lives here. Talk Radio 1210, WPHT.
Oh, Philadelphia. You're fired up over here. It is Jimmy Fallon, the best midday host in the country, filling in for the honorary Rich Zeoli, the best morning show host anywhere in the country. And I do not say that from a place of arrogance. Zeoli and I have a superpower that most of our competitors do not possess, and that is we are very much one of you. I have spent more time as a listener to talk radio, driving a taxi in New York City and getting a feel for what the medium should be. And when I get in front of a microphone, I'm very much talking to your priorities as opposed to the high-minded priorities of some Twitter elite or Washington, D.C. journalist. The point I'm trying to say is I went to community college. I don't have a big vocabulary, so I'm very easy to listen to. Good morning, everybody. How are you?
We like the easy vocabulary.
Oh, I mean, just nothing like it.
I'm not speaking for Dawn because she's a very high-minded journalist and she's fought well in the city. But for dopes like Anthony and I, we appreciate your seventh grade level education.
It's true. Seventh grade level. I appreciate the bump up right there. I went to Nassau Community and majored in Intro to Xbox with. Now, you want to know the funniest thing is, and a shout out to any community college student or worker out there. Community college is the greatest thing in the world because it is a way to get the credits and education you need without spending $1 bazillion.
Yes.
You know,
Amen.
the trade-off
Amen
is yes, you might also be sitting next to a 35-year-old man who's in a high chair, but that's it's just that you got to play the teams on the schedule. You know what I'm saying? But no, there were so many people who went to Nassau, like me, were doctors and celebrated members of society because they applied themselves. You have two paths, when I was in Nassau, I will tell you, this is the lowest thing I've ever done as a contributing member of society. I once cut bowling class. And do you realize just what a lazy, do-nothing dirtbag you have to be that you couldn't show up to bowl 30 minutes worth of frames? Was the taquito that important that it couldn't wait 30 minutes at 7-Eleven? You couldn't just go bowl. And that was one of those epiphanies where I realized I was sitting in the parking lot deciding I wasn't going to make it to bowling. That was my own rock bottom. And after that, I kind of turned my life around. And here we are.
That's good. We like that. We like a success story.
That's funny. Well, I will have you know, we have two great guests coming up today. One, Charles McBee, is a comedian. He's a writer for MTV. He actually just wrote on the Golden Globes, which is interesting because, at the Golden Globes, have big celebrities and they were very socially distanced. And everybody was appearing via Zoom. And, they had the Brady box set up with all the heads on the screen and stuff like that. But it's funny for anybody out there thinking about getting into showbiz, if you really want to know where the writers rank in terms of importance to the show. So every celebrity is literally states apart, thousands and thousands of miles apart. They fly every writer to one room in Los Angeles, and it looks like a migrant detention center. They're in foil blankets. There's 500 of them in a room. Ted Cruz is trying to film it and they won't let him. It's it's incredible. How low on the totem. I don't get no respect at all. That kind of thing. And
who hosted the Golden Globes this year?
This is how irrelevant celebrity award shows are. My best friend wrote on the show, and I don't know. It might have been Amy Poehler and Tina Fey. I think people just would guess that. Yeah, because they usually do host them.
That's right.
Yes.
But it was Zoom, and I'm frustrated by maybe not so much with Hollywood, but the way common culture has kind of eroded in the country. What's going on with baseball makes me sad, and I'm not sad that they took a left-wing position. I'm just sad that they took a position, because for a lot of people, baseball was a place to get away from politics. You didn't have to deal with it, and we don't have a lot of that left right now. There's really not a lot of places you can look where somebody's not fighting about politics or at least bringing it up,
Yep.
And that's my frustration.
Now. Everything. It doesn't matter what it is. It's brought into anything.
And it's the song is called Take Me Out to the Bowl Game. It's not tell me how to vote. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if voter ID ever comes back. That's not it's not in the lyrics, man.
It's not. No. Yeah.
Although you never know because songs written 100 years ago always have that third verse. with things that like shock the conscience. You're like, wait, what? Well, this was clearly written before Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier.
It's true. All of those songs have the hidden third verse that nobody sings anymore. That is a brilliant observation. Yes, they do.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's called Talking Baseball, but they're clearly talking about something else here. I don't know what's going on. just gonna skip this one and get back to the Cracker Jacks for everybody's safety. Oh, it's not pretty, man. But yeah, we're trying over here. So McBee will be here. You'll get a visit as well from Emily Campagno, who is the co-host of Outnumbered, former head cheerleader for the Oakland Raiders. How about that?
Wow, really? Nice.
Yeah. And her show, she's got a lot to share because this is the first week on the show with Kayleigh McEnany, who's former White House press secretary, is now on the Outnumbered couch, which changes the whole trajectory of Emily's hate mail, because you get some that are aimed at the other person.
Yes.
It's my favorite thing in the world because when I'm on Fox, depending on the hour of the day, like if I'm on, I do a weekly thing with Harris Faulkner at 11 a.m., and you get some type of critique on Twitter. It's perfectly punctuated. Excellent spelling, everything's great. But like back in the day when I was on Red Eye, you'd basically get like a selfie from a guy with his shirt tucked into his underwear saying "you suck" S-U-K. Like, all right.
You're moving up in the higher class, with the daytime.
Yes, when you start getting properly spelled hate mail, it really that's a sign. It's all coming together, folks. We'll be back after this to prove it on the Rich Zeoli Show.
The Rich Zeoli Show on your schedule. This is the Zeoli Show podcast. From Montgomery to Chester County, Rich Zeoli is on Talk Radio 1210, WPHT.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. The Rich Zeoli Show. Jimmy Fallon, the Zeoli Navy, in for the Zeoli Army here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT and the Odyssey app. Such a swanky, fine app that it is. Very impressive, I got to be honest. We're a little peppy on a Thursday morning, and I understand we have some sound from the great Anthony Dorenzo that he is going to share with us now. Anthony, I don't even want to know what you're playing. Just let's just take it away and have some fun.
What's on the cut sheet?
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, is that me? That's me, isn't it? What do we have today? Yeah. So this is unbelievable. Yesterday, Biden got tough, and I know you, Jimmy, love it when Joe Biden gets tough.
Somebody must have spiked his can of Ensure.
He was talking about raising the corporate tax rate and companies taking them and hiding the money on the Cayman Islands. All the what everybody's talking about. He got very animated about it, and this is his little. This is what he's warning us, folks. He's warning us. Cut one, Anthony.
I didn't hear any of our friends who were criticizing this plan say that the corporate tax cut, which added $2 trillion of the debt, the Trump tax cut, $1.9 trillion in debt, wasn't paid for. The vast majority of which went to the top 1% of the wage earners. I didn't hear anybody hollering in this recovery, the so-called before I became president, this K-shaped recovery, where billionaires made $300 billion more during this period. Where's the outrage there? I'm not trying to punish anybody, but damn it. Maybe it's because I come from a middle-class neighborhood. I'm sick and tired of ordinary people being fleeced.
Now, it's worth pointing out that he's giving that speech at a Wendy's drive-thru. And it's very awkward for the operator. So they're like, so do you want to supersize that? Do you want Biggie fries? Is that what you're trying to say? You said something about big fat cats. Now, listen, I honestly, Joe Biden's a liar, man. And I'll give you a couple of reasons why, and it drives me crazy. Okay? First of all, the tax cuts. According to the New York Times, they ran a phenomenal article. I give them a lot of credit for writing this because I rag on them a lot. But if you remember, a year after the tax cuts were passed, the New York Times said, face it, you probably got a tax cut and you don't know it. Donald Trump's tax cuts cut taxes for 80% of Americans, specifically the lowest earners in the country, single moms, minority communities. And the Democrats like to make a proportional argument. They're like, oh, we cut the money for the rich billionaires because it gins people up. It's like, oh, Trump just wants to hook up the rich. But that's not the actual math of the tax. The people who got affected, whose taxes got raised, were people who lost the SALT tax deduction, which means you couldn't deduct your state and local taxes that you were paying on your mortgage. So if you had like home property taxes above $10,000 a year, as many people do here on Long Island, which is amazing because we don't have nice houses, but we pay like we do. And, those people lost that exemption. And that part drives me crazy. But the bigger part is the class warfare, the argument he's trying to make about, all the billionaires got richer, in the past year, $3.5 billion more in wealth, or whatever the hell he just said. Yeah, you want to know why? That's because of the blue state shutdowns. The reason the rich people got richer is corporations like Amazon and Walmart stayed open. That's where all the business went. When you shut down all the mom and pops, you drove commerce to one place. It was the only place open, which was Amazon. That's why guys like, Jeff Bezos have made $82 trillion like a day, which, by the way, if you're out there listening, my show advertises all these hair care products. I don't believe there's a cure for baldness because Jeff Bezos is worth $200 billion. And if there was a cure, I feel like he'd be able to have it by now. No?
That's a good point. It's a great point.
And all the debt we've accumulated as a country, our national debt, 25% of our national debt has been accumulated in the past year because we've had to take, a lot of resourceful measures in terms of spending and stuff. But, when they do that class warfare thing, it's like, the rich, the fat, they're making all this money. Like, wealth was never supposed to be, like, demonized. It was supposed to be aspirational. Like, when I was a little kid, we actually watched, you guys remember Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous?
Oh, absolutely. Robin Leach.
Yes. But we didn't watch it with the attitude of, like, let's raise their tax rate 60% and make them give us stuff. We watched it with like, hey, I want to learn how to do something like that got me that rich. I want to invent something, or I want to throw a 97-mile-an-hour fastball. Whatever it could be. I didn't really have that type of sports ability. Like my sports goal was to hustle people in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out because I had that code.
Oh, the code.
Yes.
Where you could get to, you skip everybody and you get to Mike
Tyson.
Yes. Yeah.
And from back then, he would, if you knew how to fight him, Mike Tyson would wink with whatever eye he was going to throw a punch with. If he winked at you with his right eye, he was throwing a right uppercut. If he winked with you with his left eye, he was throwing a left uppercut. Ladies, this is the kind of, lady killer I was in my youth. I had broken down Mike Tyson's punching tendencies. There was a minute and 30 seconds of uppercuts, and if you could dodge them, because any of the uppercuts would knock you down, if you remember the way the game worked.
Yep.
If you got hit in the first minute and a half by an uppercut, it was over. But if you could survive the uppercuts, you could then, just stick with me, there was another winking pattern where Mike Tyson had the same jab sequence of an earlier fight in the rankings. Do you remember a guy named Piston Honda?
Of course.
Yes.
Of course. Yes.
So Piston Honda, I believe, was probably of Asian descent, judging by the name. That's where, because it was Honda, and Honda was like pretty prevalent and new to the country at the time the game came out. And Piston Honda had that same jab sequence. But when Mike Tyson was about to enter the jab sequence, he would again wink at you. And that was your cue to kind of get your hands up. So if anybody's like listening at home, I don't doubt that I'm changing somebody's life right now, because beating Mike Tyson in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, as video game like accolades go, it's a pretty big deal, no?
It is 100%. I used to, because I was so terrible at video games, I used to throw a party when I could beat Glass Joe. And I think that, like, I think your 12-year-old son beat Glass Joe 10 years ago. But I agree. Just getting to Mike Tyson was like the creme de la creme of video games at that time.
It's crazy to think that our generation beat Glass Joe, and this generation elected Glass Joe.
Where the hell are we?
Good drop.
This next cut, Jimmy, I pulled for you. Your governor up there in New York. Now we're a Philadelphia, New Jersey-based radio station. That's who we talk to. But we love the what's happening up in New York with Governor Cuomo because he is being accused. All these women are accusing him of sexual harassment or sexual misconduct, whatever. But what they should really be focusing on, of course, is the nursing homes, and we can relate that to what is happening right here in our state, in Pennsylvania, as well as New Jersey. But Jimmy, I know you heard that the rumors were that the governor intervened to help his family get vaccinations and tests and all kinds of stuff. Well, yesterday, in one of his press conferences, he denied it. He denied doing it in his ever so charming way. This is cut 2, Anthony.
Peter, the Assembly is looking at the testing issue, and I don't want to get ahead of them. But I was not involved in the testing program to that intimate level. People who I would meet with and I would be in exposure with, I was aware they were being tested. So if you came to see me in my office, you would be tested. And that applied with my family also. But the Assembly is doing a review on that, and I would let them do it.
Oh, Cuomo's the worst. It's so funny because you remember how he used to talk with such certainty? He's like America's governor.
Yep.
And, they were really like lauding this guy. And now he does sound like, if you've ever come home stoned and you didn't think your parents were going to be awake, people have been tested. I'll let them handle it right now. You're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Why are they awake? Why are they awake? Why are they awake? Like he now talks like he didn't expect there to be a press conference. Every once in a while, we all love our car dealerships, but every once in a while, our favorite car dealership will reward the best salesman that month by putting him in the commercial, which you should never do. Because it's always like, come on down to Bob Smith Ford, because he's not good off the prompter.
Yep.
And Cuomo, the problem is, the prompter is hard. Cuomo is in the prompter stage of his governorship, where everything is an update on an investigation of an investigation. And because there's so many facts, he's now speaking in prompter mode. And it just sounds even less authentic than that chicanery he pulled. Do you remember we were talking about this with Zioli last time I was on the show about how he tried saying it wasn't sexual harassment. It was an Italian thing. That's how we say hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Christmas time, grandma comes over, you kiss her on the lips and ask her to play strip poker. Who doesn't do that? Am I right, you guys?
It was never that great.
Yeah. You believe them coming after our Italian heritage like this? It's unbelievable. Because when guys are going down, they just try to grab any group of people they can and rally them to their cause. Yeah, so that's what he was done. Next week, he's going to be like, it's a fine way to treat a Yankee fan, folks. Real fine way, just because I'm a Yankee fan. And there'll be like 2 or 3 Yankee fans like, hey, they can't do that to Andy. This one's for Don Mattingly.
Oh, yeah.
Stupid. What a dumb time to be alive.
As a New York resident, were you cringing last year when the entire country rallied around the governor, knowing that with your intimate knowledge, knowing what a awful human being he reportedly is?
He's the worst guy I've ever loved. The Andrew Cuomo story is the worst thing about what our politics have become, because it's so much more important now to beat the other side than it is to get a collective win. You know what I mean? To give you a good example, the coronavirus was a common cause incident in that it was attacking people indiscriminately. It didn't know who they voted for. It was one of those moments, maybe like September 11th, where you're supposed to put your differences aside because there's some humanity hanging in the balance. It's not, like my brothers are cops. They were there on September 11th. They weren't running into the towers asking people who they voted for before they decided whether or not to help them out. That's just reality. But this time around, we did that. In a weird way, we did that. They were building up Cuomo disingenuously because we were in an election year and they wanted to tear down Trump. And this is not a Trump discussion. It's very much a Cuomo discussion. But he issued the order mandating that nursing homes take in coronavirus patients. It was March the 25th. So imagine that in New York, we were screaming about this March the 25th because the nursing home said they didn't want to do it. They said, hey, man, the president built a makeshift hospital over at the Jacob Javits Center, and they also brought in the USNS Comfort, which was a Red Cross ship that sailed in from San Diego, and they had asked to use those facilities instead. But Cuomo didn't want in any way, shape, or form to be the beneficiary of some of Trump's, maybe federal generosity in this case. So he gave the hospitals and the facilities, the nursing homes, legal and criminal immunity, which is a way of winking, to be honest with you, and saying, hey, I know this is probably going to kill some people, but don't worry, we got you covered. And that's what he did. And the media spent the entirety of that time when news outlets like Fox, Janice Dean, or, weather woman, Janice Dean, the weather machine, had two parent-in-laws, her mother-in-law and father-in-law, died in nursing homes a few days apart because of this. And they weren't able to be near each other. And we were screaming about it for 6 months, but they were giving Cuomo an Emmy. He was writing a book. And if you're talking about the reasons he should be disqualified, Greg, I know obviously nursing homes is bigger than sexual harassment, but it's not to minimize sexual harassment because there's no place for it in the workforce. I don't care what Anthony says. But no, the real disqualifying gesture is that, this idiot should be fired for stupidity. He wrote a self-congratulatory book in the middle of the pandemic. Can we think about that for a second? Imagine it's, halftime and a guy stands up in the locker room and dumps Gatorade on himself and you're not even winning the game. I mean, that's what he did. And it's stupid enough that he shouldn't be in a leadership position for that alone. But, we live in the death of shame, where he's going to hold out for as long as he can and not resign. And he might not get forced out. If the investigations don't find anything, don't forget, in a society that's so obsessed with race, where we're banning children's books over racial imagery, the governor of Virginia is photographed in Klan robes in his yearbook, has admitted to it. Then he pulled a Shaggy and did it wasn't me, and unadmitted to it. But we know it was him. It was confirmed by the guy on the page with him, and he's still in office. Yes. So this is why we can't have nice things.
Is it, do you think, so we've talked about this, I think Cuomo, Dawn, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think Cuomo is up for re-election next year, right? Mm-hmm. So do you think, because I've seen polls, I think the New York Times had an article about his approval rate. A lot of people, the majority of people think that he did what he's accused of doing, but they're also saying that they don't think he should resign. So I'm guessing if he runs again, which I think he will, he's going to get reelected. Is that a fair assessment?
To me as a New York, I think it's going to come down to who he runs against. In the primaries. Because I still, to your point, I don't think a Republican will beat him because New York is such an overwhelmingly Democratic state. And again, it's a team sport now. It's not, and it's bad for all of us. I hope people who listen understand that I'm bargaining in good faith. If you're a liberal listener, and I have so many of them on my show, Fox Across America, which you can listen to weekdays from noon to 3, I'm bargaining in good faith. I hate that we've gotten to a place of the country where we don't prioritize the greater good. Cuomo getting back into office after killing 15,000 people in nursing homes is not helping the greater good, whether you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. And this attitude where we absolve the people on our side because we just want to win, in the long run does hurt us all. So my hope is there's a tolerable Democrat who runs against him, who's a little bit more mindful of X's and O's as opposed to media sensationalism. Cuomo is a media sensationalism guy. He's a personality. He got addicted to that personality. Again, he's on with his brother with the giant Q-tips doing jokes about mom's meatballs. And then he wrote his book, which, by the way, if you're thinking about purchasing it, you can't miss it at the bookstore. It's the only one on the shelf without a spine. Oh, God. What a dirtbag. Let's go to...
I will update you really quick because the odds, we always look at the odds makers. Mm-hmm. So the odds makers have turned against, will Governor Andrew Cuomo's reelection odds tank amid the nursing home scandal? So they're now going against him.
Ooh.
Wow.
I can bet.
And bookies know, by the way.
Yeah.
Bookies know right away, said Greg with his arm in a sling and a patch over his eye after March Madness.
That's why I bet on FanDuel Sportsbook.
Hey, we're going to take a break so Greg can ice his face. We'll be back after this on the Rich Zeoli Show.
Thanks for taking the Zeoli Show with you. Rich Zeoli, weekday mornings on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Hey, it's Dawn. I hope you get treated by the best like I have. I'm really so proud of my partnership with the Center for Vein Restoration. These doctors, they've done it all and managed to just stay in business and stay, treating patients during a pandemic. These have been tough times for all of us, that's for sure. And my friends at the Center for Vein Restoration, they have safely performed thousands of health-related vein procedures over the years. And yes, they're state-of-the-art offices. They're open. They've been open. They are exceptionally clean and safe. Their staff is sure to put you at ease, just like they did with me. Great people. You're going to be treated by the best doctors in our region. Dr. Abby Cass, Dr. Mehul Shah, Dr. Michael Cornwell. Whether you suffer with little ugly, annoying spider veins like I used to have, not anymore, or maybe something more serious, varicose veins, deep vein blood clots, leg pain, or swelling, you don't want to put this off. And that's the problem. A lot of people are putting off procedures because you don't want to go into a huge hospital facility. That's what's great about the Center for Vein Restoration. These doctors adhere to the highest standards of care, promising the same treatment they'd provide to their own immediate family. And remember, they accept all the major insurance carriers. Just call them 1-800-FIX-LEGS, 1-800-FIX-LEGS. You can visit one of their immaculate Center for Vein Restoration centers in either Wayne, King of Prussia, Bensalem, or Horsham. Don't go to some clinic. Go to them. These doctors I know. 1-800-FIX-LEGS. Let them know Dawn sent you.
From Collingswood to Malvern, Rich Zioli is on Talk Radio 1210, WPHT.
It is the big bad, one and only Rich Zioli show. Jimmy Fala, Admiral of the Zioli Navy, in for the great Rich Zioli here on 1210 WPHT and the Odyssey app. It's Friday. It's Thursday in my book, but it's Friday in Joe Biden's brain. He was speaking about the Beijing Olympics, and I will explain. Greg, do you have this Beijing cut? Because I'm worked up about it.
I have Saki talking about.
Yes, that's
Beijing.
the one. That's
yes,
the one.
Yes.
That's the one. Can we play that? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, cut 3.
Our position on the 2022 Olympics has not changed. We have not discussed and are not discussing any joint boycott with allies and partners. We, of course, consult closely with allies and partners at all levels to define our common concerns and establish a shared approach, but there's no discussion underway of a change in our plans regarding the Beijing Olympics from the United States point of view.
My. So let me explain my Friday theory. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
So Biden is very much a traditional politician. And what that means is traditionally, the media quits on Friday. Whatever we were covering all week, we're done. People leave Washington, Senate, lawmakers, congressmen, they skip town. And we kind of outgrow the scandal or whatever the critique is of the decision that's been made that week. Jen Psaki gave a Friday answer yesterday, meaning she didn't read the room. And the way it works in the age of digital communication is stories they don't necessarily go away, meaning that the news cycle obviously is very omnipotent in our lives because we're digitally connected and stuff like that. But they're trying to talk as if we're beyond criticizing what they did in Georgia. That's what I'm trying to say. Like Major League Baseball, the Biden administration said, we've got to stand up against oppression. We can't have, Georgia denying voter access, which, to be honest, a thorough examination of the law would prove that it doesn't. But they're being questioned about China and Beijing. Why? Because China, when you talk about denying voter access, China has a guy who is president for life. That means no election. Do you follow me? And they have the worst human rights record in the world. So if we were really going to be standing up to oppression and injustice, I would be, pulling out of the Olympics if we're going to be consistent on the issue. But they think the ship has sailed on that, but it hasn't. And I feel bad for Olympians because they're in a tough spot. They train their whole lives. They miss their birthday parties because you got to, train around the clock to get yelled at by some Hungarian guy in a tracksuit. But, the point is, this story isn't going away, and he thinks it's Friday. He's talking like it's a political Friday, where like they're just trying to create the appearance that we're beyond it. And again, I also don't doubt that he might just think it's Friday, to be clear. And I'm just glad they let Psaki handle that one. You got to limit Biden's innings, to put it in baseball terms, because when you hear him on a real Friday, does he not sound like your Sony Walkman when the batteries are dying?
You know the thing.
Pour some sugar on. Def Leppard's still touring, by the way. Although at their age, it's pour some Splenda on me. There it is. Come on, folks. We're taking a break. We're back in the next hour on The Rich Zioli Show.
The Rich Zioli Show on your schedule. This is the Zioli Show podcast. WPHT HD, Philadelphia, from the Cherry Hill Volvo Studios, where relationships matter. An Odyssey station. The revolution will be broadcast. This is the next generation of talk. Now on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT, Rich Zeoli.
Oh, yes, it sure is. The Rich Zeoli Show. Jimmy Fallon, the best midday host in the country, subbing in for the great Rich Zeoli, pound for pound, the best morning host in the country, dare I say, in the world, here on 1210 WPHT and the Odyssey app. Tippy top of the hour. Let's start it off with some Zeoli Show news from Dawn.
Hey, good morning. Zeoli Show News Live, sponsored by Hint Water. We are at 47 degrees with bright sunny skies. More violence and a heartbreaking, record-breaking 130 homicides in the city of Philadelphia, saying our rate of murders exceeds New York City, with 2 more murders and a deadly officer-involved shooting in a string of shootings just within the past 24 hours. Across our city. Former Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell speaking out, suggesting rehiring retired police officers to help quell all this violence. And popular Philadelphia restaurateur Stephen Starr praising the Rendell era while criticizing Mayor Jim Kenney after a guy was shot and killed right in front of Starr's posh Old City restaurant Budokan recently. So Starr says there's a lack of support for Center City businesses, really slamming Mayor Jim Kenney, just saying that the government is leaving the economic epicenter of Center City to fend for itself. Pretty strong words. He says, hey, remember Ed Rendell reminded us how great this city could be. We need that kind of Rendell optimism and leadership right now. So tough words from a very, famous restaurateur and highly respected. This in the backdrop of President Joe Biden expected to issue this executive order requiring background checks for those ghost gun buyers. And he'll also nominate a gun control advocate to head the ATF. So the local stuff happening in the backdrop of what Biden is doing these days. I'll end on an amusing story. A 10-year-old boy, he got into a police chase after taking his family's minivan, and it was all because he was craving a certain cereal. So this is in Stillwater, Minnesota. Police say they see in the evening this little kid driving a 2016 Chrysler minivan. So they put on the emergency lights and siren, try to pull the little guy over. The kid takes off. Guns it. Thinks he's Tiger Woods or something. I don't know. But anyway, they set up a road. So they realize he takes off. So now they back off, follow at a distance while they set up a roadblock. That's how they get the kid to stop. His parents, meanwhile, asleep, tell police they had no idea their kid had left home or taken the vehicle. Well, the boy told police he was hungry. It was 9:30 at night. His parents were asleep. So he decided to take the minivan, drive to the Target to buy some Cheerios. So I don't know what's going to happen to this kid, and we don't know if he got the Cheerios, by the way.
Well, I got to tell you, this was the greatest story I've ever heard until he landed on Cheerios. Like, when you hear a kid is jonesing for cereal on like a steal a car level, are you not picturing Cinnamon Toast Crunch or like Cookie Crisp? And also a kid who's of the size that he doesn't even get recognized as a kid in the driver's seat. Like, maybe this is a good Cheerios commercial because your kid will stay slim enough that he'll look like a kid if they steal your car. They can advertise all the grains and fiber. I mean, wow, I love that story. That's every one of us. Could you, in my head, if we were ranking breakfast cereals, though, which I'd be happy to do, I mean, Cheerios, when you're trying to turn your life around, if you're going through that whole I'm going to lose 20 pounds and stuff, and you look at the strawberry on the box, you might eat, Cheerios. Mm-hmm. But Cheerios very much remind me of, if you've ever eaten Lucky Charms, do you know when you get to the end of a bowl of Lucky Charms and you decide you're going to push all the marshmallows to the side and have like a marshmallow orgy once you get the cat food portion of the Lucky Charms out of the way? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, it is.
Cat food.
It is
in a weird way, Cheerios remind me of the Tender Vittles portion of the Lucky Charms box. And I can't fathom, and I'm sorry if they're a major title sponsor of the show. I'm just a guest host. But no, but they're good. They're good. It's like, but it looks good on you, but I like them. But I love a good hungry kid. And we should acknowledge the fact that, yes, we have the most obese children in the world here in this country.
Yes.
But there are upsides in that kidnappings are down like 62% because you can't get them in the car. You know, it's a crime of speed and opportunity, and you can't move a 250-pound third grader the way you used to.
Stop.
And it's worse. It's worse now too because you're like, hey kid, your parents are sick. Get in the car. I got candy, and the kid's like, does it contain peanuts?
Let's get to the NBC 10 First Alert Forecast. Brought to you by Hot Pockets. No, I'm just kidding. So the daily forecast today, 71 degrees, bright sunshine, beautiful today, 65 and cloudy tomorrow with a 17% chance of showers. Saturday, 70 degrees, a 25% chance of showers. And Sunday, 73 degrees, but a 68% chance that we'll have some severe storms moving through with a lot of rain. So Hint is pure water infused with surprisingly true fruit flavors. Watermelon, blackberry, cherry, no sugar, sweeteners, or calories. Available in your local grocery store or hintwater.com. Hint, water with a touch of true fruit flavor. This is Zeoli Show News Live.
Gosh, you guys have the classiest sponsors. You know, I always forget, like, you know, PHT is like a major league station. You know, me, Jimmy Fallon, Fox Across America. I grew up, I'm on big, great stations now, but, you know, I've told you this before, Greg. I grew up on stations where they don't allow you to take the supplements they're advertising. I'm like, oh, that weight loss thing looks good. Does it work? They're like, no, you can't take that. You actually can't take that. I was like, wait, what?
But it keeps you regular.
We just did a live read. What do you mean? They're like, no, you don't. We play a fine, quiet disclaimer as you're speaking underneath it to technically absolve us. No, you can't take that.
Only first-rate sponsors on this radio station. We keep it classy here in Philadelphia.
PHT and Odyssey. This is like a varsity game. I ironed my T-shirt for this.
That's nice of you. It's nice of you.
My Old Navy. You know, there's the Old Navy rocking some Old Navy. I do love some Old Navy. Back in the day, I was a big Old Navy guy, like doing stand-up and coming up in New York. In fact, you made a Hot Pocket joke earlier.
Yes.
You guys might not know this. I played myself in the Jim Gaffigan show. And it was, if you remember, the show was on TV Land. It started off, it was going to be on CBS, and it was big, you know, giant sitcom budget and all that. And they wound up CBS didn't air it. They gave it to TV Land. And I will tell you, as a guy who was on the show, there's a vast difference in royalties between TV Land and CBS. You know, if you're on CBS, like for real, play the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up, all that jazz. On TV Land, I owed them $7.62. It's bizarre.
What's our budget? There is none.
I'm still paying it off. But no, Jim Gaffigan was cool. He was one of those guys funny. That he put every comic. Yeah, he is. He's great. And he put every comic like he kind of liked in the city on the show and gave us some type of role. So it was a good credit for us. And he's a cool guy. He got a little political over the summer. He got mad. He got mad at the politics. I think what happens to people is, especially celebrities, who have a good lane. People love them. They're, Jim Gaffigan's revered. He's as good of a comic as there is out there. But politics is a way of making people feel irrelevant because we're talking about politics so much more than whatever your art happens to be. And I think people just step out and they're like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to write my screw Trump essay and I'm going to get a lot of heat, in the press. But you don't need to do it, is the point I'm trying to make. And Gaffigan was very much, I will tell you this, he's obsessed with Seinfeld. And to the point that when he was really becoming a star and Seinfeld wasn't yet acknowledging him as like a friend or as like a peer, Gaffigan used to talk to me about it. He's like, why won't Seinfeld say hello to me? He's like such a jerk. But the thing was, Seinfeld was at such an elevated level of stardom that he was only talking to people as a way of dignifying you as an equal. It was very much high school, very senior year cool guy thing. So he was very jealous and fangirl about Seinfeld. And then this summer, if you remember, Seinfeld stepped out into politics sort of and wrote a big essay about how New York is not dead. Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah.
He wrote an essay about New York City is not dead from his home in the Hamptons on Eastern Long Island, 100 miles away from the city.
Yeah, when's the last time he stepped a foot in New York City?
Yeah, a place he had traveled to via helicopter, so he didn't have to drive through the streets of New York. He's like, no, New York's not dead. No, what are you guys talking about? I'm like, Jerry, could you speak up? I couldn't hear you over the explosion in the background. Dude, New York is so bad. Do you remember when we used to have walking tours of New York? You could do that with your family.
Yep.
Yeah, they're now called running tours. You're getting chased.
Yeah.
They tell you to bring New Balance if you're going to go on the walking tour nowadays. You got to run. It's not good.
Philadelphia, though, is going to give New York a run for its money, according to Dawn's News for the last 2 hours. Good God,
Dawn, you're killing me. But I understand. Like it's everybody's got to get this, man. We have to support the cops. The cops are the NFL referees of life. You know what I mean by that? They make millions of decisions a week in a millionth of a second, and we only talk about the call we might not like. And understand, when you don't like, a police call, it's obviously not a football game hanging in the balance. It's life or death. And when we're passing judgment, we're 1,000 miles away from that adrenaline, from that adversity. And it's really convenient when you're sitting on your couch in a neoclassical position to judge police work, but when you're there in real time, I think it's a different animal. And the only reason I say, they really do deserve our universal support is, one, obviously we can't have a society without them. And we're seeing that play out in real time. But two, when you demonize the cops and you kind of further the distrust between them and the communities they're sworn to protect, you're making everyone less safer. All that defund the police rhetoric, which was supposed to be empowering and, looking out for black people as an end result, made black communities a lot less safer. And that's, I was talking about that earlier in the show. It infuriates me because a lot of these gestures that, the perception is that they're meant to help. The reality is that they don't. And the All-Star Game's a good example of that, too. We're going to take $100 million worth of commerce out of a city, Atlanta, that's 51% black and move it to Denver, a city that's 9% black. Now, I'm happy for everybody in Denver, but let's acknowledge that we didn't help any black people in Atlanta by doing this to them. You dig?
Yep.
Getting very preachy now in hour number
it's
two.
good. It's good. Everything you're saying is 100% accurate. 100% accurate. Like, we're constantly demonizing the cops and everybody wants, let's take a microscope to what this guy did. And you forget all the millions of cops that make, like you said, split-second decisions that we could never make in a million years.
No, it's so true. And that's the part that drives me crazy is like, we need cops to feel supported because they're doing a job that's so vital. And if they don't feel supported, and we're seeing so many defections from the force here in New York, somebody has to do that job, and it's like when you're walking down the street and there's a guy on the subway with no pants on swinging a knife, people run away. I don't, because he's probably one of my listeners. But the point is,
that's not true.
I'm like, hey, did you hear Ted Cruz on the show yesterday? It was pretty good, right? It was pretty good. But no, somebody's got to come up and do something. Yes. And that's the part that drives me crazy. Is it like, oh, yeah, the cops, the guy was swinging a knife and they shot him. I'm like, dude, you wouldn't give the cop a ride to the scene, let alone be the guy tasked with apprehending him. You wouldn't drop the cop off in a barrel roll situation where you didn't even have to slow down the car. So can we stop pretending? And that frustrates me. Do you feel less safe when you guys walk around these days, Dawn? I wanted to ask you that as a woman.
We come in, when we come in Philadelphia and Center City to the studios, it's pitch dark. So I think I would always feel, I'm looking around because it's pitch dark. It's in the middle of the night. Nobody's out, except maybe, some homeless kind of people who are, lurking about or whatever. But I would say I would feel this way no matter what, no matter what. But what I notice is less suburbanites, because I live in the city, less suburbanites want to go into the city. So it used to be cool even a year or two ago. It was cool. Like, let's go into Center City and go here or there. Nope. Nobody wants to come into the city now. And that's very bad for Philadelphia because we have an amazing, beautiful city. And I think that's what Steven Starr, the restaurateur, was talking about. That when Rendell was here as mayor and then even governor, he made you feel like Philadelphia is the best city in the world. And that's how we who live here feel about it. And so, and by the way, you talk to, especially, because my kids play sports, so African-American moms in the city, the thing is, talk to the moms and the grandmoms. What they're saying is let the kids back in school, because one of the things that have happened, moms going to work or working virtually and the teenagers are out. They can't keep them in the house. So we have a record number of teenage boys, especially boys. We had a 15-year-old caught in the crossfire this week. Perfectly innocent, good kid, good student, gunned down in a cross shooting. Well, he would have been in school. And so that's an issue as well. So it's infuriating to see this happening. And then just to blame the guns and say, we're going to have a task force. I just think people have had it with that.
100%. The thing that drives me crazy is especially like in this country, it drives me nuts. Whenever there's some type of heinous shooting, and they're all heinous, but in the aftermath, we immediately train our focus on the people who didn't do it. You know, like when a guy, shoots up a thing in Boulder, Colorado, the argument immediately becomes, these NRA members or these white supremacists or whatever the political term is we go after. We never prioritize the actual issue, which is that human beings do this. There's clearly a mental illness problem that's underfunded and not being confronted aggressively enough. And I feel like that should be a bigger priority than it is. But to the point of Philadelphia, which is, again, like you said, a gorgeous city that I love, New York is in the same place in terms of people not wanting to come in from the suburbs. But to anyone listening, if you're going to go into Philly, if you're going to go into New York and you happen to be a woman from the suburbs and you do feel like you're under some type of threat from like a strange man or even heaven forbid an attacker, just tell him about your day. And most guys will bail out. If you start telling them about your day, we'll just run for it at that point.
Like what? Oh, yeah? You know what I'm putting up with? You know how much laundry I did last night?
Yeah, just no. And Beth down at the office, and at most, even an attacker. He's like, all right, I was here to mug you, but I can't sit through this. There's just, I'm sorry. Can't do it. Beth, you're welcome, ladies. Forget the brass knuckles. Forget the mace. Just start telling him about that report that was due that Janet didn't turn in on time, and you're getting blamed. I promise you, he'll mug himself at that point just to get out of there. We are back after this on The Rich Zeoli Show.
Thanks for taking the Zeoli Show with you. Rich Zeoli, weekday mornings on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Hey, it's Dawn. You've heard me talk a lot about my friends at Chapman Windows, Doors, and Siding in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Family-owned business and just wonderful people. And yes, my experience has been awesome with the Chapmans. So they continue to grow. And this has created some opportunities, job opportunities for conscientious professional individuals if you're looking for a lasting career with a strong local company. So they do have current positions open right now for experienced window and door installers, as well as a production receiving coordinator headquartered in Westchester. The majority of travel to sites will be in Chester and Delaware counties. And yeah, Chapman, they're family owned and operated. They've been in business nearly 30 years and really great people involved in the community. So the Chapman family prides themselves on attention to detail and exceptional customer service, which of course I love. Employee benefits, medical, paid time off, a company matched IRA program. Just go to ChapmanWindowsDoors.com. You can learn more or give them a call or text them. Whether you are looking for a job or maybe looking for some new windows or a home update, 610-431-8898, 610-431-8898. Chapman Windows, Doors, and Siding. Just a great company with great people and a great place to work. Let them know Dawn sent you.
From Bensalem to Exton, Rich Zeoli is on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
It is the Rich Zeoli Show. Jimmy Fala, the best midday host in the country, subbing in for Rich Zeoli, the best morning host anywhere in the world, here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT and the Odyssey app. We've been having a pretty peppy conversation. We are coming up on an hour of commercial-free talk. We're going to be speaking with Charles McBee, a comedian, writer at MTV, as well as Emily Compagno, who is the co-host of Outnumbered on the Fox News channel, where I kind of work as an all-purpose, if you remember in baseball, like Jose Oquendo, who was he was a catcher, he played first base, he filled in for the hot dog guy if he had like a bum ankle, I'm kind of like the Jose Oquendo of cable news.
I love that. I mean, that should be your slogan,
Well,
Jimmy Fala, the Jose Oquendo.
do you want to laugh? When I got hired at Fox, they sit you down if they're putting you on the air, because I started at Fox as a head writer for the Kennedy Show. So as a head writer and on-air talent, because they had met me in a comedy club and they used to use me on the show. And when you get interviewed if you're on air. You get interviewed by like the people who run the company, like the tippy top of the, like there's a trap door if it doesn't go well and you go down a chute and get fed to sharks, I'm pretty sure. They said like, what do you see yourself as? And I said like, I kind of do everything. And I made a Jose Oquendo reference. And one of the fellas interviewing me, because I said, Jose Oquendo on the Cardinals, and he was like, he was a Met. And I was like, yeah, but listen, who the heck doesn't disassociate any of their Met memories, under like guidance from a therapist? You're not supposed to remember anything about the Mets if you care about yourself. And they're just awful. I mean, so bad if you get there early, you can play. The Mets, it's a mess, but stick with me. So I had said, I'm like the Jose Oquendo, I can do all this stuff. And when I got to work on my first day, he had put a Jose Oquendo Mets card on my desk waiting for me and said, just to prove his point that he was also a Met, which I didn't care about. I was like, dude, I just want the job. I was in a cab, trafficking guns with like somebody an hour ago. Guy's swinging a screwdriver at my head in traffic. I don't care who Jose Oquendo played for. Can I just sleep indoors 2 nights in a row? Like, pretty modest ambitions.
I have that image of him. Like it's a Topps card from like 88 or 89 or something like that. And he looks like that comedian. Who's the comedian I'm thinking of? I shouldn't even have brought it up because I can't think of the comedian's
Let's
name.
Think about it. No, I'm going to dig it up and I'm going to tell you which comedian it is.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. We run a class operation. Are you talking about the wood barrier Topps card?
Yes. Yes.
Because 87 was wood. Okay.
Yes, it was.
Hold on. I want to make sure I get
Maybe it was 88.
Okay, I'll give you 188. I don't see. I'm trying to think with the mustache.
Yes.
Because he had a mustache. Is that what you're reacting to?
He did, yes.
The comedian with the mustache. This was Stump Jimmy Fallon. You just won the jet ski.
I've been in radio for 17 years, and I did the one thing you don't do. I brought up a reference that I didn't know. Like I didn't know what it was, and now I brought the segment to a screeching halt.
No, you didn't.
I apologize for that.
No, you didn't. Because I honestly, as a host, I just want to commend you because visuals the crowd can't see are great for radio. Right? Don't beat yourself up. Don't. They're phenomenal for radio.
I'm terrible.
But you want to know something? If this was like the way the internet works now, this would be a secret product placement for Topps, and everybody would go find this card, and then you'd take a swig of ocean spray, and we'd get like 5 million likes.
I'm gonna tweet it out. Somebody will tell me what it is.
I'm looking at comedian with a mustache.
Which
Charles Elmer Rip Taylor Jr. 1931.
Just terrible.
I love it.
Maybe he shaved it. I don't know.
A good never trade baseball cards with Greg Stocker. Look, kid, I'll give you these Jose Oquendos. He's going to be on Star Search. He's a famous comedian. And some young kid is like, oh, is that like Carlos Mencia? Is that like Cheech Marin? And he's like, yeah, no, that's who it is. It's a type. It's worth money. It says Oquendo. You're a card hustler, Greg Stocker, and I don't appreciate it. We can talk about it when we come back with an hour of commercial-free talk here on 1210 WPHT.
Now, the revolution will be broadcast. This is the next generation of talk. Now, this is 60 minutes of non-stop talk with Rich Zeoli.
Oh, baby boy. It is the Rich Zeoli Show. Jimmy Fallon, the best midday host in the country, filling in for the great Rich Zeoli, the best morning show host in the world, right here on 1210 WPHT and the Odyssey app, which is very fancy, I might add. Folks, we're having a very peppy Thursday morning on the show, and it's about to get a hell of a whole lot peppier because joining us now is a superstar comedian, a writer for MTV, and the most vocal black Donald Trump supporter I know. Charles McBee is here. Hey, Charles.
You son of a gun. How are you?
Oh, man. I try to convert you.
I love how this audience has no idea that you're joking.
Oh, no, they know now. They could tell by the reaction, McBee. They could tell by the restraint it took you to call me a son of a gun and not something else. It was the tell for anybody who was unsure was the pause. You're like, oh yeah, terrestrial radio. Maybe not.
Exactly.
No, I will.
How are you?
I will have the audience know you are what comedians are supposed to be. You are a political atheist. You call balls and strikes on both sides pretty aggressively, I might add, from time to time. But, your primary focus is entertaining us and not being an activist, would you not say?
There you go. I throw spitballs from the back of the classroom.
That's what he does. And I should amend my statement because I do not believe your primary focus is entertaining us. I think it's meeting women after the show and making money. That's what I think. Well, but I classed you up.
There you go.
Yeah.
Listen, it's 7:00 in the morning. Let's class this baby up.
It's because you understand, we're filling in for the great Rich Zioli. This isn't like my show. Like, people come to this show with some expectation of decorum. This is a classy station, so we really have to put a coat of paint on this bad boy is what we're doing. But talk to me. Comedy is sort of back, but it's weird, McBee, because we're still in that jarring stage. Like, do you remember when you first went to a restaurant after they reopened and the sight of people serving you in masks was a little jarring? Like, I think comedy feels the same way. Like, have you seen some of the plexiglass in some of these rooms?
Oh, it's insane. First of all, they're opening up at 33% capacity in New York City. Listen, if I wanted to perform for 30% capacity, I'd headline. You understand?
That's funny.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't need to. It's very jarring, like you said. And I don't know. Me personally, I've spent 12 months, off the grain. I can wait a few more months. That's just me personally. I'll let everybody else be the guinea pigs. I'll wait until we can actually have a great show. But I'm glad that the clubs are able to make money now. That's a good thing. I really want them to be able to make money and all that good stuff. But yeah, it is. It's very jarring right now.
No, it is. It's so bizarre. What's funny is, like, everybody like you heard 33% was like, yeah, that sounds awful. The Knicks were like, that's a huge crowd. Wow. What are we making, a playoff push here? What's going on here? 33%. It's to me, it's not what makes comedy great is that it is infectious, which is a weird term when you're talking about a pandemic, but laughter is infectious when people are bunched together and the laughter kind of spills through the room. That's that moment of there's a weird bonding element of comedy that isn't there when we're spread out 12 feet apart. And it's absolutely not there, might I add, on Zoom. Anyone, if you're a comic right now and you're driving somewhere and your agent has just booked you a Zoom gig, call your agent back and fire him immediately. No, McBee?
Well, first of all, if your agent is booking you Zoom gigs, you need to reassess. You need to take another pandemic time off. Take another lockdown and just reassess everything. You should have taken this lockdown and rethought every step you've made in your career and go back to law school or something.
I mean, yeah, is there not a better commercial for like stay in school kids than a guy telling jokes in front of his laptop to a room full of strangers on the other side of the laptop? Not even a room, but 800 different rooms full of strangers. So I will tell you, McBee, really quick, there's a big benefit at Gotham every year. You've probably been on it. It's Laugh to Remember. It's an Alzheimer's benefit. Last year, they raised over $500,000 for Alzheimer's. Now, if we could just remember where we put the money. Hey! But anyway, this particular gig, which is an Alzheimer's gig, draws like a really A-list black tie crowd. And they do, like, the items you're bidding on are stunning. Like, really, like, when it's like a level of access to celebrities and stuff. Like, one of them was like pitching lessons with Noah Syndergaard on the Mets, like something that crazy, like a comedy writing lesson with Seinfeld, or like a ride home from Tiger Woods, which no one would take for some reason. I don't know why. Nobody bid on that.
I don't know.
But the point is, last year they had the event on Zoom. And they were like, we're doing it on Zoom this year. We don't want to break the momentum. Would you be open to come by and perform? And because I've been hosting it for like 10 years, I was like, yeah, absolutely. These people like pay my rent. I'm showing up. And the minute I got on the Zoom, like I logged in, I clicked the link, I unmuted my mic, and I saw 800 little pixelated heads staring at me. And I made the conscious decision to say to them, hey, I'm not here to do comedy. I said that before I said hello. I was like, hey, I'm not here to do comedy. I'm Jimmy Fallon. I just want to say a few words about the event. And I just ripcorded it immediately because, like, comics, we don't have the self-worth to begin with, let alone to just be shouting comedy into the night sky. in hopes of some type of message in a bottle return scenario. And it's the most, is Zoom comedy not the most demeaning thing that's ever happened to you?
Listen, first of all, yes, it is. But I will say the silver lining is when you bomb on Zoom, once you log off, you're immediately back in your bedroom. You don't have to do the walk of shame outside of the venue. You don't have to talk to the coordinating staff. You don't have to take the train home or drive. It's just it's like it never happened. It's like a bad dream. It's just close your laptop and go to bed.
You don't have to worry about, the guy outside the club who's like, hey, it takes guts to get up there, kid. Give yourself some credit.
Exactly.
Oh, Charles McBee is on the line here on the Rich Zioli Show. Jimmy Fallon in for Rich Zioli. Yeah, there is that. That is definitely an upside. You know what the worst thing about comedy is? It's not when you bomb. It's when you murder, but somebody says to you, and they're not being sarcastic. They're like, yeah, it was a tough crowd, huh? And you're like, wait, what did you mean? I thought I killed. Like, I genuinely, I'm outside the club looking for my limo right now. I assume it's the one with the hot tub in the back that those sheiks use from the 80s. And you're telling me tough crowd? Because those are the comments that really screw your head up in comedy, right?
You know what's crazy? The one that's yelling tough crowd is one of the voices in my head.
At all times. At all times.
Yeah, that's all it is.
A lot of people don't know this, but to be successful in showbiz, you do need an abusive stage dad living in your head at all times. Mm-hmm. I know you know this. But so Michael Jackson had Joe Jackson, who really was a rough character. But, there's an argument to be made. He created the Jackson 5, so there's something about it that might have worked. But I'm not here to defend Joe Jackson. What I'm here to say is every one of us has a voice in our head that's constantly screaming at us and telling us we're terrible. And that's kind of what keeps us working. Like, if you want to be successful, you need that guy to keep you working, right?
Oh, there's nothing worse than the comic who is bombing in front of 500 people, but they see the one person with an IQ of -7 who's laughing at their jokes, and they think they just murdered.
Yeah.
Like it would be terrible for my career, but sometimes I want that naivete. Sometimes it's just like, oh, what a wonderful world they live in inside their head. They'll never make it in comedy, but man, they must have a ball in that head of theirs.
Everything's perfect. They're the ones who open the front of the newspaper and laugh that those first 7 pages. The rest of us have our soul in a fetal position. They're like, oh, this is great. Yeah, no, you're right. You got to be a little bit of a sociopath. Well, the beginning of stand-up, that's kind of how it starts, too, is to get into any form of showbiz. You've got to delude yourself because you know so much about the odds of not making it and you know so many tragic stories that I do think in the beginning we are all propelled into live performing with a bit of delusion, telling you to overlook these odds because you're one of the guys that's going to make it. And I will tell you this, McBee, the first time I ever performed was at the New York Comedy Club. There was they used to have a variety night in the side room. Do you remember the New York Comedy Club back in the day?
Yeah.
Literally converted a coat check room into a stand-up room. Do you remember that? It was they had a room that was actually, they were using it as a showroom, and it got shut down by the fire marshal because everyone would have died because there was no way out of it. Like, they literally had us in a showroom, like we were being human trafficked into the country. We were in a hidden cauldron of the New York Comedy Club. Well, anyway, the first time I went on stage, because I was so new to comedy, I had a good telephone sales job. And I was making money, living with my mom, feeling good. And the woman who went on before me at the variety show did a monologue that she dedicated to her dead grandmother. And then she punctuated it by placing a rose on the stool and closing by crying on her way off the stage. And then in a variety show, in variety shows like that, you're tag teaming, so there's not even an MC. You just run up there next. So she's crying her way into the audience, and I run up there and I go, my girlfriend's so fat. How fat is she? Like, that's what I was doing. And needless to say, we had a second person crying their way off the stage that night. But I remember leaving. Yeah, go ahead.
Meanwhile, the crowd's yelling, "Bring back the dead grandma."
Oh, that's funny. That's too funny. But I left that set, though, and I remember listening to the recording, and I did spoken word. I mean, I bombed.
Yeah.
Like Hamas called the club and claimed responsibility for my set. They're like, this was us, that sort of thing. But I remember getting out of bed the next day and being like, yo, I'm in showbiz, man. Don't talk like come on, man, right?
Oh, there's definitely, a big boost of naivete when you first get in. You're like, I'm going to get a sitcom. It should only take about 3 to 4 months for them to realize that I am the next Robin Williams. It is, it's amazing to watch, and especially when we'll guest host or we'll headline some of the new talent shows. For people that don't know, the new talent is just people who want to get into comedy. They'll bring family and friends, and they can do 5 minutes or whatever. Mm-hmm. And whenever I'm hosting one of those or anything, just watching just this line of bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, dumb, and I say that affectionately, dumb new comedians that are just like, yeah, I'm going to be on the Tonight Show tomorrow, and it's adorable at best. It's adorable.
Well, the tell comes in showbiz. What's so funny is when you are a young comic and you are idealistic and you think you're going to take over the world, the tell comes the first time you get asked to open for a hero. Because you go backstage and meet the hero for the first time and see how broken and angry and jaded they are. You're like, wait, everybody loves you. You're Raymond. And he's like, oh, F this club. I'm not doing PR events in the morning at 8 a.m. I don't want to be here. Why did they have a Sunday show? And I'm like, oh my, because you came in with this totally different thing. But yes, once you semi start having a career in showbiz, you get to stand behind the magician and see where the rabbit gets put and all of that stuff. And it is very illuminating, but not necessarily in a good way, Charles McBee. Well, really quick, I want to get to this because we have you on. Obviously, you're a fantastic comic. We're on the Rich Zioli show. I'm a guest host, so you've got to do this with kid gloves, and you've got to keep the mood light as much as humanly possible. So I want to talk to you about Jim Crow laws for a second, because Joe Biden has been bringing up Jim Crow laws. I just want to ask you this. We're not going to get into a deep debate here, but I find it insulting to my intelligence as a white American and to your history as a black American that there's a comparison being made between asking someone for ID and what was going on with Jim Crow laws. Is it not a little disingenuous given what we know about Jim Crow laws?
All right, I'm going to break this down as quickly as possible.
Let's go.
There is a distrust between, let's say, the black community as well as other minority communities, but particularly the black community and the government. We know that exists because of history, right? Mm-hmm. And listen, I have friends. I have black friends who don't even trust the vaccine because of that. A guy called me. He was like, "Did you hear that Hank Aaron died?" I was like, "Yeah, of course, died at 86. Terrible." He's like, "Yeah, well, he took the vaccine. I think it was the vaccine that took him out." And I was like, "Oh, maybe. Well, maybe it was that, or maybe it was he was 86. I don't know. You pick, right?" I say that to say that when it comes to the history with voting laws and the things and the hoops and things that they made black people go through in order to be able to vote and the fight that we had in order to be able to vote, I think, and this is a very unpopular opinion, that history is being gaslit and perverted by members of the Democratic Party. That's how I feel personally. That may not be the popular opinion in the black community, but that's how I feel. There is no reason that we are not able to, that black people can't get an ID if they don't have an ID. You need an ID for everything under the sun. It's silly, but it is a tool that a lot of politicians, Democratic politicians, when they're going into black churches, eating their chicken wings and doing the Running Man to cater to pander to black people.
I'm dying.
It's one of those things.
Finish your substantive point, but I'm dying.
Yeah, it's one of those things that they use to gaslight black people, and I personally don't like it. But that's my.
I appreciate you saying that. I agree with you 100%. And, to the Georgia law, not only you don't even have to show an ID. You can show a utility bill. You can show a bank statement. You can show anything with your name on it that's recognized. But I feel, and I was having this talk with Harris Faulkner the other day on Fox, and I really feel like, McBee, we've cheapened the meaning of the word racism to the point that like we're tone deaf to it. Like when we were kids, if someone got called a racist in the court of public opinion, the whole country stopped because it was a term that really wasn't used. Like you're talking about in case of emergency, break glass. Now the first thing we do in political discourse is walk into the room, break the glass, and then say hello. You know, it's already out. It's crazy. Like I've heard racist so much. It's like a greeting at this point, you know, like morning racist. What's up, you white supremacist? Like I feel like we've watered it down.
That's me calling you.
Oh, Charles McBee. This was everything I dreamt it would be, and we did it anyway. So thank you, my man. I owe you big. I do believe I'm going to be conversing with you about a whole host of issues later in the day today on Fox Across America, assuming this interview didn't talk you out of joining me.
I get talked out every time, and then you bring me right back in.
It's like the mafia. Just when I think I'm getting out, it's really what it's like is showbiz. Because you're like, yeah, I'm not performing for another year. You're going to get a call from a booker tonight. You could see Charles McBee on Zoom tonight at 8 p.m. Be opening for the Water Buffalo Club, doing all this. What did you say? You said the white politicians eat chicken wings and do the Running Man?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. The black church. Every time.
That's the closer. It's just the image to me of the white pot. It's the funniest thing I've ever heard. I love you for this. Thank you, buddy. I'll see you soon.
No problem.
Oh my God, there he goes, Charles McBee. Is it not funny to picture that pandering, Greg, that goes on?
100%, because he's 100% right. There's so much pandering that goes on to every sort of group that and we talk, especially here on the Zioli Show, we talk about like it. Everybody's an American. Like the Democrats and liberals want to like put everybody into little boxes of well, this is this group and this is this group and this is this group. It's like we're all a part of the same. Yes. American thing, you know what I mean? So like stop with the pandering to every group.
Race baiting.
Yes,
very
exactly.
Think about this: if Martin Luther King said, as he famously did and so eloquently did in the "I Have a Dream" speech, if he spoke at the Democratic National Convention in this year and said, I want to live in a world where people are judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin, he'd get booed. They'd be like, who's this Proud Boy? Who's this right-wing strongman who doesn't see skin color?
Yes.
Who is this guy?
Yep.
And that was the whole point of life. Like they really are, they're messing with the experiment, the human experiment of life by corrupting every facet of our existence. And what's funny, we did a bit on my show last week. Is actually pretty funny about pandering in Spanish. Do you remember the Bidens last week tried to speak Spanish? Jill Biden with the Si se puede. You remember that? And then Joe, it was kind of like a B headline, but Joe last Thursday said mi casa, you casa. So we had recorded this bit, like a Rosetta Stone bit, about how to speak fluent political pandering in just 3 easy press conferences. And it was just like clips of the Bidens mangling Spanish. But because you remember Biden did this over the summer where he played Despacito in front of a Spanish crowd. Do you remember that?
Oh, that was the worst. Oh my God, that was terrible.
But they always do it. When Hillary Clinton would do the old, I don't feel no ways tired. Remember when Hillary speaks black? We always play that clip and laugh. And it's like, it's insulting. And like my hope, I pray. Me and McBee talk about this a lot on my show. Like me and him, we spend a lot of time in the car. We spend a lot of time hanging out, doing comedy. And we're very comfortable talking about race. Like to the point that I knew I could bring up Jim Crow and I wasn't going to throw him. But we talk about this pandering all the time and how the joke of the America we're living in right now in terms of racism being the opening to every argument is the Republicans, if they're smart, are probably going to nominate Tim Scott for president in 2024. As black senator from South Carolina. And the joke of it all is the Democrats are going to call him racist. Like, I promise you, record this, stick it in your vault. If Tim Scott runs as a Republican, they're going to be like, oh, Tim Scott's the first black Republican. But beneath the surface, it's not so, we're not so sure. And they're going to talk about bills he's voted on and stuff and tell you he is a racist. And it's infuriating. Tim Scott, by the way, he comes on my show a lot. Fox Across America, noon to 3. not to sandwich board too much on the show.
That's good.
But here on PHT, I'm very much a radio rescue dog. You know, they have me on to make sure I don't chew the furniture or hump anybody's leg. And so far, so good on the furniture. So far, so good on the furniture.
It's true. It's true.
The other stuff, you know what? Listen, I appreciate you bringing the squirt gun. It reminds me to get back to business. But Tim Scott's a very interesting story. He comes on my show, and he is the first black man, first black American elected to both houses of Congress. He was a representative from South Carolina in Congress, and then he became a senator from South Carolina. And he famously said at the Republican National Convention this year that America is a place where his family could go from cotton to Congress in one lifetime. And what he meant by that is his grandfather was forced out of school in the 3rd grade to become a sharecropper. And that's the South he grew up in. And in that one lifetime, we went from sharecropping, no rights as an American, to this guy is on the cusp of being possibly president, but he's already been elected to both houses. And that's the reality he was speaking to, is that the Democrats very much like to obsess over the America we were instead of the America we are. Do you follow me? Like an America where he could do what he did. Yep. And the reason I'm making this point is because right now there's this very big debate going on in the Senate about getting rid of the filibuster. Like, we got to get rid of the filibuster. It is a relic of the Jim Crow era. That's their justification. That's the actual talking point you will hear like a Joe Biden say. It is, or Nancy Pelosi or anybody who's a prominent Democrat, Chuck Schumer. It's a relic of the Jim Crow era. Well, the last 5 times the filibuster was used, it was used by the Democrats, which is interesting, but more so because last year when we were burning down 12 cities during mostly peaceful protests, as you know, Tim Scott, the first black man elected to both houses of Congress, put forth a police reform bill. And how do you think the Democrats killed the debate on the bill? They filibustered it. You don't say. And it's like, at some point, this is not a political statement. This is an American statement. You know how you can't yell fire in a crowded theater? We've got to have a law where you can't yell racism in a crowded country just because. Because when you're yelling it just because, in an era where people's emotions are their facts, if you tell them something that gets them emotional, it is crystallized in their soul as being true. And racism obviously being such a hot button subject that we can't let go of in this country. You know, if you tell someone, the Republicans want this filibuster, it's a Jim Crow relic, it's racist, people who have no base level understanding of the history of this country and how it currently works in Washington assume that to be fact. And that's how they gin up support for policies that, to be honest with you, have no basis in race. As Charles McBee just said, you can't tell me it's racist, Delta, to ask for an ID if you're going to turn around and ask for an ID. No. It's infuriating. And the baseball thing, too. And I just want to say this about the baseball thing. Nothing on earth at a baseball game can be as offensive as the beer prices. Nothing. No mascot, no political position, no voting law. Amen. At $15.50 a beer, I am as profoundly as offended as I'm ever going to be. You know?
$15.50 for a Miller Lite or a Bud Light or something like that.
For a room temperature Miller Lite. and it's bad because here in New York, what the Mets do is they raise the prices as the game goes on because they know you're more desperate. It's like $15.50 in the first inning. By the 4th, they're down 7-2. They're like $21.80. You're like, wait, I just paid you $15.50. They're like, do you want the beer or not? It's 7-2, and they go into the bullpen.
You're actually here at a good time. I mean, the Phillies took the series from the Mets,
sure did.
Right? Yeah.
I love listen, man. You have converted me because I love Joe Girardi, the manager, obviously.
Just great.
And I mean, I've had this talk with Rich before on the show.
Yeah.
I am obviously a guy who grew up in New York, and baseball is like religion. Your parents pick it for you. You just wind up rooting for whatever they did. So that's how I became a Yankee fan. But Philly fans, and you've heard me say this on the show before, are like my spirit animals because they're what Yankee fans used to be before they priced all the character out of the stadium.
Yes.
Yankee Stadium in the 80s was a rowdy place. If you wore a visiting jersey, they harassed you. They're supposed to. That's the whole point. Like when people say Philly fans, they get rowdy, they scream. It's the whole point of going to a sporting event as the road team. You want to feel alive, know? 100%. Like when we walk through Times Square, as a kid, it's the most dangerous place in the city. That's exactly why you went. You flew into the Bug Light because you felt alive in a way you hadn't before. And it was one of my favorite things when we're talking about this disingenuous race baiting by the Democrats is if you remember when Trump got into office, there were these stories on the news where people were like, oh, you know, I was walking down 42nd Street last night and someone called me a slur now that Trump's in office. And I'm like, yo, hello. Like, that is why you walk down 42nd Street. That is absolutely, you'd always walk down to find out, like, it's like letting a child draw you. You find out what you really look like to kids because they don't know how to self-edit. If you walk down 42nd Street, you called every name imaginable. We used to go there on purpose.
Yeah.
Like they have these fellas they call themselves, their term, it's the Black Israelites. Mm-hmm. And they're out there preaching about Israel and white devils and stuff. And like literally, like people walk by like, do me, you know, because they'll start disparaging you. But they try to conflate these things that have been going on forever as some sort of new development, is what I mean. Yeah. So, like, voter ID, it's in pretty much every state in the country. And can I just say something? And nobody, you know, this might shock a few people. Georgia had voter ID for the last election. It's not new. It's not even actually new that they want ID. They've expanded access to ID. They've done away with a signature verification. And yes, they've moved the game to Colorado, which has less early voting than Georgia. And oh, by the way, also has a voter ID requirement. So this is not them trying to help Black Americans. This is not them being honest about the state of race in our country. This is them trying to advance a political agenda by decrying something as racist so there's support for what they want to do next. What the Democrats want to do next is they want to use they want to abolish the filibuster. They're saying it's a Jim Crow relic like this Georgia law, because if they can abolish the filibuster and the 60-vote threshold for passing legislation in the Senate, they'll then only need to get 50 votes, 51 counting Kamala Harris, in order to pass H.R. 1, House Resolution 1, which would allow them to codify at a federal level all the election changes we made in 2020. That is their agenda. Now, thankfully, Joe Manchin came out last night from West Virginia. He's now the most popular guy in the world because he's like the swing vote. And he said he is not going to amend the filibuster in any way, shape, or form. So I am giving a standing O to Joe Manchin because I want this country to stay this country. The Senate was designed to work in a way that gave the minority party power. So we didn't just ram legislation down the throats of the country that we didn't agree with, you know. And that is, to be honest with you, you know, they say after an election the people have spoken. What the people have said is we have a dead even Senate. We have like a 5-seat separation in the House. The people have clearly said work together. But the politicians are basically saying the number you have reached is not in service right now. They're not working together. It's frustrating. I'm a frustrated man because I care about the country. Damn it! I'm a proud patriot, Greg.
Yes, I know you are. You are a proud patriot. And by the way, you're a starting. You know, you've said this before. You started driving a cab. You went to community college, and now look where you are. So you're an American success story. Sorry, I don't mean to be serious, but you are.
Oh man, it's crazy. I will. I'll send you the $50 later for that. I love when
Chris
you say
Bills,
it just the way I write it down. I love when you say it like that. No, believe me, on some level, when you really think about all the time I spent driving a cab, you know, and listening to Rush Limbaugh in a cab, that's what I did all day. Those are the best 3 hours of my day. When radio has the superpower for people to, you know, if you're working and that's how you consume it, or you're commuting, you're a trucker, a good radio show has the superpower to teleport somebody through their day, to give them like 3 hours they look forward to that makes the day a little bit easier, that gives them a little more pep in their step. And that's my favorite thing when someone will message me about the show. It's like, oh, I listen every day at work. It's great. It's like the best part of my day. That means more to me than the paycheck. Well, they're not giving me actual money like Fox is giving me Meisterbrow and like Natty Lights on Thursdays. But the point is the compensation I'm receiving means so much more coming from a listener than it does from any type of boss. And to the point of success, yes, it's crazy to be in a position where, you know, a lot of stations have signed the show. I would say, 10 stations in the last 2 weeks have signed this show as a noon to 3 replacement for a guy I grew up listening to, which is supposed to be, it's mind-blowing for me, but it's supposed to be empowering to you as a listener from a standpoint of, here is this mook kid who went to community college and smoked weed and played video games and really didn't apply